Planet Dolan. How did someone revolutionize kitchen cutlery by trying to create a better gun? What common household chemical was discovered by dropping a vial on a pair of shoes? Here are 15 examples of people making mistakes that worked out better than if they'd been successful. I'm Danger Dolan, and today I will be your narrator.
Number 15.
The discovery of sugar substitute saccharin was a lucky accident that could just as easily have killed the scientist who discovered it. Ira Remsen wasn't working on a sugar substitute in his lab, he was working on a number of things, including a coal tar derivative. One day, Remsen forgot to wash his hands after, handling dangerous chemicals, and then he ate lunch and noticed the bread roll he was eating was unusually sweet. He traced that flavor back to the chemical he was working on, and that became saccharin.
Number 14.
Synthetic Morph Dye. As a student at London's Royal College of Chemistry in 1856, William Henry Perkin was given a simple task as homework. He was to synthesize quinine, a drug used to treat malaria. Now, this drug could only be made with extracts from exotic trees, so Perkin was trying to find a cheap way to synthesize it. Like the guy who invented saccharin, he turned to coal tar, the byproduct of Victorian-era gaslighting. After a few experiments, he failed. What he made was definitely not medicine, but he did revolutionize the artificial dye industry and created the color mauve, a vivid purple not cheaply available anywhere else.
Number 13.
Teflon. This discovery came as a result of a failed attempt to discover new chemicals to use for food refrigeration. In trying to create this new refrigeration agent, he used dry ice and accidentally converted the gas he was working with to a strange white powder. He tested that powder and found that it was heat resistant and that other substances would not stick to it. After some refinement, that powder became Teflon.
Number 12.
Olestra. The goal was a simple one. Create a substitute that could be used in snack foods to make them still taste great but not cause any weight gain. That's the dream. The discovery was Olestra, a fat substitute that would pass through the intestines without ever being absorbed into the body. Like many fat substitutes, the result was uncontrollable diarrhea, which wasn't an acceptable trade-off for most people. Luckily, the core ingredient of Olestra, sucrose polyester, has found a second life as an effective machine lubricant.
Number 11.
Postit Notes. This is the result of basically trying to do the exact opposite thing at 3M. This engineer was trying to create a super strong aerospace quality adhesive. Instead, he created an incredibly weak adhesive that left no residue and peeled off. At the time, the adhesive was seen as useless and shelved. It wasn't until 5 years later that another 3M engineer applied the adhesive to small strips of paper as page markers, and the idea took off.
Number 10.
Fireworks. Here's the story of what must have been either a hilarious or terrifying kitchen accident in 10th century China. The cook took saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal, 3 common cooking ingredients at the time, and accidentally lit fire to them. The result was a burst of colorful sparks. Experimented further and discovered that if you lit those ingredients in the hollow of a bamboo shoot, it created a powerful explosion out the end.
Number 9.
This is one of the messier accidental discoveries you'll find. It came when a Canon employee set a hot soldering iron down next to his ink pen. Soon the ink pen heated up and started squirting ink out the end. Once the employee realized the ink explosion happened because of the heat, he got to work putting that principle into action for inkjet printers.
Number 8.
Slinky. This is one of the most famous oops inventions of all time. James Wright was trying to invent springs that would stabilize instruments on naval ships while sailing. He knocked one off a shelf and it started doing the now famous Slinky walk. Wright saw that, played with it a bit, and decided to run with it as his new business.
Number 7.
The man who created the Pacemaker was the owner of 150 patients by the time of his death. But by far the most important is the pacemaker, an invention used to save and improve the lives of 600,000 people every year. Of course, what he was trying to invent was a device that would record heart rhythms, but he made a mistake in adding an extra electronic component, and the result was a device that created a heart rhythm instead.
Number 6.
Stainless steel. In 1912, Harry Brearley was trying to create a new type of steel for use in guns. The rifling marks in guns would wear down over time, making the barrel eventually too big for the bullets. Brearley was trying to create a type of steel that wouldn't wear down, and he failed badly, repeatedly. And his failures would rust and corrode over time because steel, being primarily made out of iron, would rust just like iron. But one of his failures didn't rust. It stayed shiny and pristine even months after creating it. Brearley had discovered rustless steel, which he immediately set to using in cutlery.
Number 5.
The famous story is that the namesake of Coca-Cola comes from two of its core ingredients, cocaine and the cola nut. That's true, and as a result, the drink was originally sold as a medical tonic, a drink to give people energy, and it likely worked to some extent since the cola nut is rich in caffeine and cocaine is, well, cocaine. However, in 1898, Congress passed a tax on the sale of all medicines, so after that, Coca-Cola was no longer marketed as a medicine, but simply sold as a drink.
Number 4.
Scotchgard. Usually dropping a vial of chemicals onto a pair of shoes in the lab means you get rid of the shoes, and maybe your feet. That's exactly what happened in 3M's lab in 1952 when Patsy Sherman was trying to develop a new type of rubber to use in fueling lines for jet aircraft. An assistant dropped one of the components, spilling it onto his white canvas shoes. Water, oil, and all known solvents washed right off of the shoes when they tried to clean them up. That discovery led to the development of Scotchgard, the versatile fabric protector.
Number 3.
Safety glass, another example of a dropped vial resulting in something amazing. 1903, Edward Benedictus accidentally knocked a glass flask off of his shelf. It hit the floor and broke, but did not shatter, and mostly maintained its shape. He found out that the glass had previously held cellulose nitrate, a clear liquid that had evaporated and left a transparent film. Because the flask looked clean, the assistant returned it to the shelf, and that transparent film that held the glass together was the key ingredient in the discovery of safety glass.
Number 2.
SMS Texting. Technically speaking, the technology originally used in text messaging has existed since 1984. SMS was initially used as a method of communicating network statuses between administrators, and while the technology existed for 8 years prior, the first actual text message was sent in 1992 from a PC. In 1993, Nokia created the first commercial handset capable of sending text messages, and in 1997, they developed the first phone with a full keyboard.
Number 1.
LSD. Sandoz was the same Swiss chemical company that accidentally discovered saccharin. But this discovery was a bit different. In 1917, Sandoz created a pharmaceutical department, setting out to work on a fungus which is commonly found in tainted rye. Now this fungus in small doses had medicinal properties. In large doses, it caused convulsions and death. Symptoms of the poisoning were so severe they were presumed to be behind the accusations of witchcraft driving the Salem witch trials. The research on this fungus eventually led to the development of LSD, which had no discernible medical use. The lab discontinued testing, but the researcher himself, Albert Hofmann, continued experimenting on it, using himself as the test subject. What? Danger Dawn, did you know that we have a countdown book featuring some of our best scripts on sale now? Links down below for the physical and ebook versions. That is it for this countdown. Have a good one!